Hey guys, Aramis555 here, coming to you guys with the much-awaited November 2015 Six Samurai deck profile. Um, I actually have a couple weird changes in here. I'm sure a lot of people are going to say I'm a hypocrite for some of the things I did, but um, I mean, we did lose two Rotas, so we're kind of having to go back to how the deck was played before, which is it's unfortunate. There's two ways you can really play this deck. I think you could play like a pure Dojo build with like triple Kageki, triple Dojo, and no Asceticism, or you can just max out an Asceticism. Now, before, I mean, I might as well just spoil it now. I did basically max out on Asceticism again. And you guys know I hate that card, but I think it is necessary. And as much as I hate Elder as well, since we did lose two Rotas, you kind of have to like replace those two cards with like two more cards that are potentially going to get you to the Shien. The biggest issue with losing two Rotas in this deck is that prior to that, you had more options to search out Kizan, and you could more easily search out Enishi just as a normal summon, which was really crucial. So I kind of wanted to make sure I could still get to Enishi Shien as soon as possible, and that's really going to be made by playing more copies of Asceticism. Ideally, you could do the same thing with Dojo, but the problem I have with Dojo is that it isn't a monster. So if you draw like two Dojos and United or something, and like no monsters, like it's just you basically lose. So I've never really liked three Dojo. I've always liked two. I think two is just like a better number. So anyways, before I start the deck profile, I just want to say that I will be doing a quickie deck profile for this as well. And please make sure to click on the ads for my videos. I've noticed that I'm not getting a lot of clicks, and it really does help me out. I do more videos for you guys if I'm getting more clicks on the ads. So please do that. It's much appreciated. So without further ado, let's get on with the deck profile. Really not a lot has changed, so I'm not going to explain too much here, but two Kageki. Yeah, three I think is fine. I mean, now that we did lose two Rota, you could definitely play three again. That would be like how the deck was played back when Shien was, at three and we had Gateway and stuff. But I don't know. The problem I have with Kageki is that you can't special... you can special Kageki off Kageki, but they don't gain the attack boost, so it's kind of not good. And I don't really like relying too much on Kageki because he does lose to, effect negation pretty easily. So, three Kagemusha, pretty standard. Not going to say much about that. I love this guy. Like, a lot of people do forget that he has that targeting effect a lot of times, and that can win you some games. All right, so here's the change. I'm playing two Elders again. I hate Elder. I think he's a one of, but I figured like it was either losing the two Rotas is like, okay, well I gotta replace those cards with either like another monster or another potential search card, and I didn't want to play a third Dojo. I knew I had to play the third Asceticism, so if I do bump up Asceticism to 3, you do need a second Elder, otherwise like you're gonna get dead Asceticisms. I don't like that, so I did bump Elder up to 2. I don't like two Elders. I could say that 1,000 times and it won't change anything, but the one thing I do like about this playing two Elders, though, is that if your opponent decides to go first, which with Pendulums coming out and like all the crazy plays they can do turn 1, that makes this card actually a lot more relevant because you can actually special summon Elder and then Asceticism it, and you still haven't used your normal summon yet. So that's actually really good because I do like that because I find it actually leaves me with boards where I can end up with a Shien and a Spirit equipped more often, which can potentially get the pluses rolling, and it obviously protects the Shien, which is really good. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're going to play 3 Asceticism, you have to play 2 Elder, but if you're going to stick with just 2 Asceticism, 1 Elder is perfectly fine, but I did bump Asceticism back up to 3, so 3 Kizan. That's pretty much the same. Third Zanji. So now this ratio is going to be a lot more consistent now if you're playing 3 Asceticisms. You can do rank 4s a lot easier. The only downside, obviously, is Exciton Knight is banned. And Exciton was really good in this deck because you could like potentially Exciton with a Shien on the board, which you don't care about if you're going to be gaining advantage. So that's really good. I mean, since I'm playing 3 Asceticism again, you could ideally put Grandmaster back in, but I don't like Grandmaster anymore. I feel like he's completely irrelevant. And very rarely are you going to have the opportunity where you can like attack with 3 monsters and have a Kizan at 21 and then Asceticism it for Grandmaster for game. Like if you're in that situation, you're probably playing a bad player or you just sacked really hard. So the one on Enishi, I do like that I can get out this guy a lot easier now with the Kageki combos, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, that's another thing you could change is if you do, I mean, you could still play 3 Asceticism and bump Kageki up to 3, and then you're obviously going to be getting the Kageki, Kagemusha, Enishi playoff more often, but I just didn't want to dead draw too many Asceticisms later on because of that. And the one Spirit, you guys know I love this card. It's like my favorite monster in the deck. It's super good. A lot of times people, like, I usually just will negate the first spell or trap or pendulum monster they activate, and then they're, because they're hoping you do that so they can, like, Raigeki you, but then you have the Spirit equipped, and it's like, okay, well, my Shien's still going to live. So a lot of the times that's a really, really strong play. And I did keep the 2 Maxx in because I just love this card, and it helps slow down the really fast decks. So that's 15 monsters onto the spells. We have 1, 2, 3 united. Still don't have supers, but I'm hoping to get some one day. 2 Dojo. I think this card's absolutely crucial now. Even more so, like I saw a lot of builds were not playing Dojo. Even the Asceticism builds prior to Rota going to 3 were not playing Dojo. I honestly think this card is more important now than it was before, just for the pure fact that we just lost 2 Rotas, and this is going to add consistency to your awkward hands, because you can still get hands where you just open like an Elder, or a Kageki and a Kizan, and then you don't have your tuner, and like if we don't have the search cards to get to Kagemusha as easily now. This is your other search card, so you do need to play. I think personally you do need to play 2 Dojos. For search cards, we have 3 Smoke Signal. That's pretty standard. All those people who are just playing 2, you get to bump it back up to 3 again and stop being stupid. Rota's at 1, which is kind of cool because I can play my dual or my Hobby League one again, which is nice. But yeah, this is too bad. But I mean, ideally, I think it needed to happen. Rota at 3 was just so strong in like too many other decks, and it's just such a versatile card in the sense that you can play it in everything, that I feel like going to 1 again was necessary. I was saying for a long time it needed to go to 1. I'm actually happy about it going to 1 as well because it hurts the Tellarknights, and that deck was just way too consistent. So, so here we go. 1, 2, 3 Asceticism. I hate this card, but I think you need to play 3 of it again. We did lose our search card. Yeah, I'm missing a first ed one. Somebody actually switched out one of my first ed ones while I was at Locals about a year ago with their unlimited one from their deck. I didn't notice it, so that's pretty brutal. I don't know why they just didn't steal it, but I mean, that's like replacing a piece of fresh fruit with a rotten fruit in somebody's lunch bag. Like, who does that? But yeah, I think you have to play 3 of this card again. I hate it, but I think it's a necessity, and it does speed the deck up a little bit, so what can you do? The 1 Book of Moon and the 1 Soul Charge. This card is the nuts. You have to play it. So that's it for the spells. I have no idea how many spells that is. I actually haven't counted. So for traps, still playing the triple double-edged sword technique. I still swear by this card. I think you need to play 3. It is the best trap card in the deck. It is your recovery card. It is your instant Shien card. It is your 2-card Trishula with a Kizan or whatever. It's just so good. It's your OTK card. I don't know how many times like the opponent thinks he's still alive, and I flip up double edge and like bring back like a Kizan and an Enishi or whatever that's in the graveyard, or Kageki, and it's just like boom, boom, attack for like 17 and 21, and it's just so strong. Like your opponent just doesn't expect it. This is just, it's your only good top deck in this deck. So play triple double edge like it's your comeback card. And once again, there is the combo with Shien and Spirit, where if you bring back the double edge, or use double edge to bring back Shien and Spirit, you equip the Spirit to Shien. Shien will attack a monster, you get to draw a card, and at the end phase, Shien will try to destroy itself off of double edge. The Spirit will die instead, and you get to keep your Shien. So it's actually like the double edge ends up being like a +2, which is pretty awesome. So triple Fiendish Chain. That's pretty standard here. This deck does lose to monster effects. This card's not going to be as relevant anymore, unfortunately. This deck actually has a pretty tough matchup against like Magispectors, especially because they have that stupid counter trap, and you know that's just one of the situations where you side deck. I've always side decked 2 Musakani Magatama. Every single time I play this deck, I always side deck 2 Magatama, and that's just because there's some decks you go against where the Magatama can be really strong, such as the Tellarknights, Infernity when they had triple barrier, and now Magispectors. Yosenju's as well. Anything that really has a counter trap, you know, you have to decide the Magatama. The 1 Vanity's Emptiness. The 1 Ring of Destruction. This card's awesome in here. It's just a spot removal. This deck really relies on spot removal because it does lose to like monsters generally, so this card's just really good. And since this deck can OTK so quickly out of nowhere, that's pretty much the reason why you need to play cards like this because it does do the burn damage and you can just get it in quicker. The one Compulsory, a lot of people say this card's bad now. I actually kind of agree. I think now that we're getting into a more pendulum-heavy format, and now that Burning Abyss and Shadows are kind of like taking a back seat, and I think Burning Abyss really isn't nearly as good as it used to be. I think that this card isn't as good as it used to be, but I still think it's very good in this deck just for the pure fact that you can use it to abuse counters, and you can also use it to you know, just remove a monster that's in your way, so you can just like attack for game. The one Bottomless Trapple and the one Solemn Warning. So that's it for traps. That's the main deck, guys. 40 cards. So it's really only changed. I just basically took out 2 Rotas and put in third Asceticism and the second Elder. And so far, I've been testing it a lot on Dev Pro, and so far it's been testing really well. So let's get on to the extra deck here. So starting off with Synchros, the one Trishula, my favorite Synchro monster behind Shien. I love this guy. Any deck I can bring out Trishula is a deck I will play. Trishula is just like such a strong card, and it's really good against Cosmos, which we all know is probably going to be the best deck in the format going into, I guess, was it 2 days from now, I guess, is when the ban list changed. So on to level 6s, I play the one Naturia Barkion and the one Vulcan. I don't think that Goyo Guardian is good, especially since we're going into Pendulums now. The Pendulums, when they die, go into the extra deck. So Goyo Guardian's really not going to ever be getting his effect off very much anymore. The other problem is that, you know, Necros and stuff is still going to be a thing, I believe. Even though I think the deck is garbage, people are still going to try to play it. And if you try to kill their Necros monsters, they cannot be special summoned back to your side of the field. So that's really, really not good. So I think Goyo is just not worth the spot. I like Vulcan because you can bounce face-up cards that are giving you a hard time. And he also can bounce back your Fiendish Chain, obviously, which is very, very important. I really don't make Barkion that much anymore. Now that we have the second Shien, I just find that like most of the time you end up just making 2 Shien, which obviously is the next card. So 2 Shien. So some Samurai players out there are going to be like, why aren't you playing 3? Let me explain this. I explained this in the last video. I believe that Team Samurai X, or how you say his name, he said it as well, that you don't need 3 Shien. Like, Shien, when it was at 3, most players actually only played 2, and the people that did play 3 was just because back then the extra deck had the space, but most players, if you go back and watch old deck profiles, say that they never actually made the 3rd Shien, unless it was the mirror match, which in that case it was just really grindy. Pretty much like with Shien, by the time you've made the second one, and if your second Shien gets destroyed at that point, you're probably losing the game. But if you make the second Shien and it's still on the board, you pretty much have won at that point. Like, a late game Shien is just so hard for your opponent to get over when you're both low on cards and you can like flip up a double edge and make a Shien. It's just really difficult for your opponent to come back from that. So 2 is just fine. 3 takes up too much room in the extra deck, and the extra deck is actually quite tight on space. There's a couple cards you could probably switch out, but overall, like I think 2 Shien is just perfectly fine. I would never play 3. I'm happy with my 2. The one Armades, one Catastor, still think he's really good. He gets over problem monsters this deck can otherwise have a hard time with. And the one Naturia Beast, who I also don't make very much anymore, but when you do make him, this card's insane against Pendulums, so that's another reason why the Asceticism Elder is going to help out a lot, is if you can just make Naturia Beast turn 1 against certain decks, you're probably just going to win. I've had that happen a lot in Dev Pro, where I'm going up against like the Performapel deck, and that deck's just like Pendulum happy, and you make Naturia Beast turn 1, and I've had so many times where the person either just like knows they've lost, so they just start playing Pendulum monsters to see if you won't negate it, and you just negate every single one, and they end up just scooping. Or they just scoop outright, and then you know right away, you're like, okay, well, I was playing a Pendulum deck, obviously, because that guy just couldn't do anything. So that's it for the Synchro. So on to the extra deck, or sorry, the XYZs. I'm playing the one Shadow. He's just really good because obviously you can beef up Kageki. Now, obviously Towers isn't a problem anymore, but Cleeford are still going to be playing Skybase, I believe. I was testing Klee to see if they were still good, and I actually think that Skybase is actually a really good card. It's 100 less than Towers, and it doesn't have that like 500 attack and defense deduction effect, but I mean it's still really, really a good card, and I think that's pretty much what Klee players will be replacing Towers with. He's really just there because he's just like counter abuse, and I don't know, I like his effects. Sometimes you can just like, it puts in work, especially if you have the right spammy board for it. I'm playing the run Ragna Zero. This is just good against random decks that have, this deck does lack monster destruction, so I figured this was a good choice. I don't own 101 either, so this would probably come out for 101 when I do get one day. But basically, Writing a Zero is just like it's good against decks that have random attack boosting, such as Fire Fist, Bujins, anything like that. So yeah, I like Writing a Zero. It's quite good. The one Excalibur, just for the big beater effect. Obviously, it just gets over anything that's huge. Just a good card. Castell, obviously, MVP. You could probably drop Writing a Zero out for second Castell as well, but you really don't make rank 4s a lot in here. Ideally, you're just doing a lot of synchro plays, I find. The one Best Dweller, super, super important, just because this deck obviously has a problem with graveyard effects. So the one Gaga Cowboy, because there are some TKs you can do with this deck, and Cowboy puts in work. And then the one rank 3 is Zen Mains. You guys know I love my bro Zen Mains. I love wind-ups, and he's my favorite rank 3 XYZ, so I usually always play him. So that is the deck profile, guys. Thanks for watching. I will do a quickie deck profile for this as well, just so you guys can see the quicker version of it. But yeah, let's get this to... Oh, it's going to get to 50 really quickly, I'm sure. Let's get to 50 likes, and I will do an updated SYLVAN deck profile for the new November 2015 ban list. And then we'll kind of go from there. Let me know down in the comments below if there's any deck profiles that you guys want to see of something I haven't done yet. I may not have the deck for it, I may not have the cards, but if you guys are looking forward to something like Inzectors or wind-ups, I was actually thinking about doing a wind-up. I know I keep promising to do wind-ups, but I was actually thinking about doing a ARG format wind-up deck profile, which would be really fun. So if you guys want me to do that, please comment down below and I can do that for you guys. Other than that, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Peace. Oh, I didn't pause it.